And we are back, and we just finished watching 1973's The Exorcist with a runtime of 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's rated R. It's tagged as horror thriller. This is currently streaming on Netflix. That's where we saw it, right?
Yeah.
And is based on a novel by
William Peter Blatty.
William Peter Blatty, right. Which, trivia, I read this many, many years ago. I don't know how true it is, but apparently he was trying to shop he was trying to shop the novel, and no one wanted to buy it. And someone suggested that he make it into a screenplay. And I guess this is how it got into William Friedkin's hands. So the movie went on to do very well at the box office. It garnered a couple of Academy Awards.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought he wanted to do a screenplay, and they said no, and then he wrote a book.
No. Oh, wait. No, because I think the book came after?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Probably should have looked this trivia up.
I should have looked this trivia up. I could swear though he wanted to shop the novel, but nobody wanted to buy it. So someone said, "We'll make a screenplay of it." And it's funny, many, many years ago, I used to do this thing with a friend where we would go to used bookstores and just go to like the dollar bins. And I actually bought this book, and it was like a crazy old copy, probably from the 70s. I read it in like a day. And the funny thing about the book was the book is exactly like the movie. There is no deviation from it. The book is the movie, and vice versa.
You know, I think I remember seeing an old copy of that in my parents' house growing up.
Yeah.
The entire time. So
yeah. I remember buying it. It was like in the dollar bin or something. And I was like, oh, I was always curious to see how far from back when I had time to read, how far from the movie the book was. And I was really surprised at how just
faithful it was.
How faithful it was. Yeah. Well, I think Blatty also writes the screenplay for this.
I think so. Yeah.
So that makes sense. I should probably figure that out, but I'm pretty sure that's how I read it, that he originally wanted to sell the book and couldn't find someone to sell it to, and then a friend said, well, you should do it into a script. Impressions, thoughts?
I really like this movie.
It's great.
It's funny. I've seen most of this movie. This is probably the first time I've sat down from beginning to end to actually watch it.
Interesting.
And this film completely holds up.
Holds
for a
up.
film that's as old as me. It really holds up. You could, clean up the print a little, but you could release this in a theater right now.
Right
if it
now,
didn't exist before, and you'd have a hit. This was great.
And I think we saw the theatrical version because in subsequent years they've added. There's like the cut scenes, the famous spider walk down the stairs that Regan does. Like that wasn't in this particular copy of it.
This is the original one that got theatrically released.
Yeah, but and it's funny watching it now. It really is sort of like the gold standard for horror because you see how other people have aped it and parodied it and just ad nauseum, whether it's for horror or even comedic effect.
Yeah, this film has
a little bit of everything.
A million references to it in pop culture. From the head spinning to the vomiting to...
Which you found amusing.
Oh, God, that first... What's my mother's maiden name? And he's like... It's like Karras' gotcha moment, and then suddenly it's just blam right in the face with some puke.
And you laughed and laughed and laughed.
I've laughed at that since I was a child. You're talking about how you were so horrified by it, and me as a little kid just remembers just him getting his face douched with it looks like Velveeta.
I think it was pea soup, if I remember right.
It was very creamy.
Yeah. I saw this as a young child too, and I will admit I was completely traumatized by this film. Traumatized for years, to the point where I would actually beg my older brother to turn on the bathroom lights because we lived in an old pre-war apartment growing up, and long corridors and dark hallways, and in moments of just super freakouts, I would always hear tubular bells in my head. It would just go off at different random times, and I think that even freaked me out even more.
Yeah, that iconic.
Yeah. So crazy. So crazy. I looked briefly on the Oscars list and saw that Ellen Burstyn was nominated for Best Actress and Linda Blair was nominated for Supporting Actress. I feel like that should have been the opposite. I feel like, not to take away from Ellen Burstyn because she's such a fabulous actress, but the GOAT here to me is Linda Blair.
Yeah.
For a young child, for a kid actor to pull what she pulls in this movie is phenomenal as far as I'm concerned.
And there's no like any sort of hesitancy or whatever.
She is all in.
Who's committed to the part.
Yeah.
And she's asked to do some pretty
crazy things.
Yeah. Like there's moments in there where like,
even now, as an adult in 2022, I'm like, what? What did I just see?
There are some seriously shocking moments in that.
Agreed. And I think I read, because I've always been a fan of this film, even though it scared the pants off me, that she really was fine during the filming. I think in latter years, there were issues with her, but while she was filming this as a young girl or young lady, she was fine with it. I guess she wasn't seeing it as like a completed piece of film, right? I mean, she's just doing her job as a young actress, so she's seeing, and I'm sure they don't film everything in order.
Yeah.
So I'm sure certain scenes didn't have that impact. But once you sit down and watch this movie, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah, the finished piece is just nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, and like the exorcism doesn't even take place until like the last half hour of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's like a good slow burn.
Yeah.
They're not diving right into spooky jump scares and there's a demon in the house or anything. There's just like hints of what's going on, and like the guiding thing is this, like, you don't want to accept that this is what's going on.
Right.
Ellen Burstyn's character doesn't want to accept it. Nobody wants to accept the doctors, even Father Karras. In the beginning does not want to accept what's going on. It's only until like they actually witness what's going on, and the funniest is when the doctors just give up.
Yeah, and they're like, have you thought about going?
Have you ever heard of something called exorcism? And it's just like,
and she's like, she's so incredulous. Yeah. She's like, you want me to take my kid to a witch doctor?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just like one doctor. It's like a team of.
There were like 12 people around that table.
In a room, and they're just like. They're all in agreement. Yeah. Exorcism is necessary at this point. And they're trying to like science it up. They're trying to be like, well, if she thinks she's possessed by a demon, then she'll also believe that she could be cured by an exorcism.
Right. Which I thought was so great too. I'm glad you said the thing about the slow burn. I don't know about you, but while I was watching it, I could see how this is the gold standard in horror, because this is a horror movie. Something like Hereditary reminds me a lot of this, with the slow pacing, little hints here and there.
Building up this
and then the end is just batshit.
Yeah, it's edging you closer towards insanity.
Yeah.
And Hereditary did a great job of that.
Yes.
And that's why, honestly, things like that really work, and to me,
are the better horror films.
Are the better to like, that's like true horror. That's the type of horror that's going to scare you rather than just like,
jump scares.
I'm jumping out of the window and I'm jumping. There's a guy under the bed. That's different. That's just like adrenaline shock.
Yeah.
This is like this creeping dread that gets into your bones.
Yeah. Agreed.
And then at the end, it just builds up to just absolute chaos and insanity and floating beds and wounds being torn open, heads spinning. Vomit oozing, a lot of stuff oozing.
Yeah.
But really well done. Not like not that stuff like that in Evil Dead 2 isn't well done, but it's a different type of oozing horror sort of stuff.
Yes. It's more comedic in that example.
Those movies. And in this, it's just sort of like, oh God, this is so like when he has to take his little priest cloth away from her mouth after like she just sort of like lolls her head over, and she's like a machine. She's like a soft serve ice cream machine. he's like gathering it, and like we've all cleaned up a big mess with like too few paper towels, and we're like trying to like fold the paper towel in such a way that we don't get our hands too messed up. And it's like Max von Sydow is doing that, and then he's just like, here, take it. He just gives it to Father Karras. Yeah. That was just gross. But it's like, that's like real gross, you know? And it was just really, really good.
I also want to say that in the 1974 Oscars, Tatum O'Neal won for Paper Moon, which she's lovely in, but she was not Linda Blair. She was not Linda Blair in The Exorcist. No. This kid was, wow. I mean, if you didn't tell me that wasn't made up, I was like, oh, that looks like it could be real. And the other funny thing about this film that I've read that I think is public knowledge is that this is obviously based on a true story. I think they flipped it. It was originally a boy in Maryland, and these priests did an exorcism. I think it was in the 50s or 60s. I don't remember. But this is actually based on a true story.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's one of those things that I know for a fact. I don't even have to look that up. I remember that from just always. This was always something that, I mean, I think I went to, well, I don't think, I went to Catholic school. I think that's where I remember hearing that from. But yeah, so I think the other thing about this film, at least for me, being raised Catholic, is that complete terror that something like this could happen. Because as a Catholic, you believe in these things, right? And this is told through the lens of a Catholic priest and how the religion gets involved to help this family. So when I think of terror, I think demonic possession is definitely high on my list of things that I find terrifying. I think also like in what was that movie? The Omen, right? The original Omen. There's that scene where, pretty sure it's The Omen, right? The woman is possessed and she winds up killing her baby and her husband. There's I could swear there's a scene in that. I'm pretty sure it's The Omen.
I haven't seen The Omen from start to finish
in a long time either.
I was probably a teenager.
Yeah.
The only thing I catch it on TV every once in a while, and I wait for David Warner's head to do his little 360. That was awesome.
Also, another scene that finds you in hysterics.
Never ceases to make me laugh.
Why do you think that this movie still holds up?
There's nothing going on in it as far as like special effects that'll take you out. Like a lot of like older movies from that era, you love them. You love the hell out of them. But then you look at it now and you're like, there's obviously blue screen going on. They don't quite match, or it's stop motion animation or something like that. And you're forgiving of that. Mm-hmm. But it breaks that immersion. It breaks the immersion into the story. This doesn't have any of that. This is all
makeup. This isn't like crazy special effects.
Makeup, practical effects. Everything looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just the performances are just spot on. There is no levity in this movie. There is no like sort of like little aside where they're just like, oh, that was one hell of an exorcism or anything like that.
No.
This is dour as far as these what these characters are going through from even the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially Father Karras, the whole story with him and his mom.
Mother, yeah.
And it's just, it adds to that dread. I mean, even like there's like that scene where I'm guessing he's dreaming and he's like standing on this sort of like little island on a bridge
right.
And he looks down the way and his mother is walking out of a train station and she just stands there.
And she's talking, but you can't hear anything.
Hear her, and he's like yelling. He's yelling and yelling and yelling.
And he starts running towards her, and then she starts walking down the stairs.
And then she goes back down the thing. Does he? I don't think he was even running towards her. I think he was just sort of like jumping and waving his arms, trying to
get her attention. And then you see the face of that thing, I think, also, and the medal that eventually Ellen Burstyn's character gives to the other priest.
St. Joseph's medal?
Yeah. The one that Merrin found in the dig in the beginning.
Yeah. Like that scene, it was like a nightmare. And there was nothing There wasn't any monsters. It was broad daylight. There was all sorts of people around. But just the way it was filmed. It adds to that atmosphere. It adds to that creepiness, and it adds to the sort of feeling that you're seeing somebody. And he had that dream before or after she died?
Before she died.
Before she died,
right.
But it was sort of like prescient of that happening. He knew it was going to happen, and he knew his mother was going away, and that was it. He sees her, and then he sees her descend into the subway, and the subway could be a creepy place sometimes, especially in the 70s. Especially in the 70s, underground. Just the way that film and the way she looked. Seriously, they cast a really good old lady for that part because she looked so sad and like you could picture her saying, "Demi, why'd you do this to me?" Demi.
Yeah, and even the scene before that where he meets the uncle at the sanitarium, where he's like just confronted by all this crazy, right?
Yeah.
And she's tied down, and there's no reason for her to be tied down. She's just an old woman who wants to live in her home and die in her home.
Yeah.
Right. But here she's surrounded by this, and you see that when she turns away from him, like just in just such disappointment and hurt.
And those are her final days.
Yeah.
And he knows that, and that. You could see he's just like crushed by that.
Right.
And then on top of that, now he's got this freaking demon and this little girl.
Right.
Who knows the stuff that she shouldn't know.
Right.
To the point where she's like using his mother's voice against him. And like he like loses it.
Yeah. Well, he also saw her at one point when he walked into the room when Merrin said, "Let's take a break," and he sees her sitting up. He sees her. He sees his mother. He doesn't see Regan. He sees his mother. Yeah.
And the way it's filmed, it's like so stark and cold.
Yeah.
Like you could feel the cold.
Yeah.
They did like
top to bottom, everything.
Everybody's breath
when they go into her room.
Like now they'd make that and the breath would be CG or something.
Right.
Like that, those actors were suffering. They were in a meat locker,
cold room,
disguised as a child's bedroom. And that was it comes through in the film.
Yeah.
There's so many like iconic shots, like the
Merrin
the
pulling up.
The misty shot of Merrin
pulling up in front of the house under the lamplight. Yeah, if we ever get a poster on the wall, I would love to include that. Yeah. I think that's that's such a iconic shot. And even though Max von Sydow isn't in this a lot, like his performance is just stellar.
He's like always old.
He was never a young man.
Even in
the Sixth Seal, the Seventh Seal, right? The Seventh Seal. That was that movie that he did.
Yeah, Ingmar Bergman, I think.
Yeah, he looks as old as he looks in this movie.
No,
maybe by 10 years.
I think it's just because it's black and white and whatnot. But that was 1973 when The Exorcist came out, and he looks like he's like 70 or pushing 80.
Yeah.
Apparently he was only 40 or 40 or so some odd age in that movie.
Yeah, early 40s.
And then you're thinking, oh well, he was still working all the way into the late 2000s.
Yeah,
he was in Force Awakens for like
Game of Thrones.
And Game of Thrones. Who was in Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Who was he in Game of Thrones?
He was the Black Sparrow. Remember that the kid gets the power from?
Oh right.
Yeah.
Yes, the one-eyed raven.
That's it, the one-eyed raven. Right.
Yeah, they recast it. That's right, and it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was still working. Yeah.
Yeah, till 2010. I think that's when he passed away.
He was the brewmeister in Strange Brew.
Oh wait, no, he passed away later than that, right? When did he pass away? I'm gonna go look now.
He was Ming the Merciless.
I loved him in that. God damn it.
Bring her forth for our pleasure.
He was so great. God damn it. No, he died in 2020. He was born in 1929. And he died in 2020.
So he was, 91?
91.
Wow.
God bless. Yeah.
Working right up to the end, too.
Yeah. And he didn't, honestly, he looked younger in Game of Thrones than he freaking did, or is that Star Wars?
Either way.
He looks
as old
as old as he did in The Exorcist in this picture.
Yeah. good looking old man.
Yeah. All right. Scale of 1 to 10. What are we going to give this film?
I mean, I'd give this a 9. This is an excellent movie, and it still holds up. That's the amazing thing. It came out in 1973. It still holds up to this day. Like I said, you could release this movie
today.
If The Exorcist didn't exist, you could release this movie, and this would be a great movie. Yeah. You would still be thrilled. You know what? I would probably say you might not get some of that past the censors now.
You don't think?
Some of the things that Linda Blair was doing were, it wasn't just
shocking.
It wasn't just profanity. It was total blasphemy. And yeah.
Well, I'm sure you could still get it made. It's just it would play in like art houses and stuff. Like this is definitely not a mainstream movie.
No, I don't think so. This was great.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a perfect 10. This is from start to finish an experience. Again, traumatized for many years after initially watching this film. Traumatized for a very, very long time. I can actually sit through it now as a grown person, but still creepy to watch, still impactful and terrifying to sit through, thinking of the actual story and what it means, and just the fact that this actually happened, I think, is also completely horrifying. This is my best friend's favorite film, and this episode is dedicated to my Lenny, who I love more than anything. And I just want to say I love you. I'm so happy that you're there and that we get to traverse this life together. I hope that I'm a good friend to you as you are to me, and I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you soon. I'll talk to you soon, and that's it from us, and we will bid you all a good night.
Good night.